Picture this. We're in the middle of a vast, completely silent desert. The wind is barely moving, the landscape is totally empty, and walking through this desolate space is a father and his beloved son. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most profound, emotionally gripping narratives in all of human history. We're talking about a story of absolute submission, unimaginably high stakes, and a legacy that has lasted for thousands of years. So let's just get right into it. As this father and son walked, you have to realize that every single step they took felt heavier than the last. But here's the thing, it wasn't because they were exhausted from the desert heat, not at all. It was actually because the father, a man of immense unwavering faith, had just been commanded by Allah to do something no parent could ever even begin to imagine. He was commanded to sacrifice the one person he loved most in the entire world. Now, to some, this might sound, well, it might sound like an act of cruelty. But as the history reveals, this was literally the ultimate test of faith humanity had ever witnessed. This right here is the origin story of Qurbani. Which brings us to part 1, the long wait. To really grasp the weight of this, we have to look at exactly who this father was. Ibrahim, he wasn't just some ordinary guy. Look at his early years. He stood up against idol worship when literally entire nations were bowing down to statues. He was even thrown into a blazing fire for speaking the truth. But Allah made the flames cool upon him, and he survived. Fast forward, years and years pass. He reaches old age, and despite all of his incredible devotion, he still doesn't have a child. Yet, and this is absolutely crucial, he never lost hope. Finally, those years of patience were rewarded. Allah blessed him with a son, Ismail. This was the child he had waited his entire life for, the son he loved with all of his heart. Moving on to part 2, the prophetic dream. So everything changes in a single night. Ibrahim goes to sleep and has a dream. But we need to be clear here. For you and me, a dream is just a subconscious thought, right? But for a prophet, a dream is a direct revelation. It is absolute truth, and it's a direct command from Allah. And in his dream, Ibrahim saw himself sacrificing his own son. I mean, just try to imagine the sheer pain in his heart in that moment, the confusion, the fear, the unimaginable sadness. But like we said, Ibrahim was a man whose entire core identity was complete submission to Allah, so he submitted, even when the command completely shattered his heart. That leads us into part 3, the conversation. Faced with this agonizing command, what does Ibrahim actually do? He chooses complete honesty. He doesn't hide it. He goes straight to his son and tells him about the heavy burden of this dream. Ismail's response, it's honestly stunning. He just says, do what Allah had commanded. If Allah willed, I will remain patient. Think about that. There is absolutely no anger here, no fear, no resistance at all. It's one of the most emotional dialogues in human history, showcasing this pure absolute trust in Allah from a son who was just totally willing to surrender to the divine will. Now we enter part 4, the journey of sacrifice. With the father's resolve and the son's willing submission, they begin this heavy walk. Some narrations mention that during this agonizing journey, Shaitan tried to step in. He tried to whisper doubts into their hearts, really trying to exploit those basic human fears. But they rejected every single whisper because at the end of the day, their love for Allah just completely overpowered any temptation to turn back. Ibrahim prepared for the sacrifice, and Ismail submitted completely. Just imagine the sheer strength of that faith. Here we are at part 5, the miracle. The tension here is at its absolute peak, and right at that breathtaking, devastating moment. Allah called out to him. The test was complete. Sincerity was proven. Abraham had just demonstrated the ultimate proof. He showed without a shadow of a doubt that his love for Allah came before all worldly attachments, even the life of his beloved, long-awaited son. And then, an incredible miracle of divine mercy descends. Allah replaces Ismail with a great sacrifice. A ram is sent down directly from heaven to take Ismail's place. I mean, the immense wave of relief they must have felt is hard for us to even conceptualize. Through this unbelievable divine intervention, a timeless symbol of submission, faith, and sacrifice was born, a symbol that would literally echo through all generations to come. Which it brings us to part 6, the meaning of Qurbani. How do we honor this incredible legacy today? Well, the answer is millions. That is the number of Muslims around the world who perform Qurbani during the days of Eid al-Adha. Today, this ancient desert journey is kept vividly alive by millions of people across the globe every single year. But we have to ask, what are they actually doing? Is it just some physical ritual? Because while we see the physical act, the sacrifice of an animal, there is a much, much deeper meaning beneath the surface here. Qurbani is actually the spiritual sacrifice of arrogance. It's the sacrifice of the ego. It's this conscious severing of worldly attachments for the sake of Allah. When you look at it from that perspective, the physical act is really just a manifestation of an internal spiritual transformation. The story of Ibrahim and Ismail, it's really a timeless masterclass. It teaches us what true absolute faith looks like. It's about trusting Allah's plan, especially, and I mean, especially, when life becomes deeply confusing, painful, or just impossible to understand. It's easy to have faith when things make sense, but the ultimate test, that's holding on to faith when they don't. So as we wrap up our analysis in this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct question. We know exactly what Ibrahim was willing to sacrifice. But take a second and look at your own life. Look at your own attachments, your own ego. What are you willing to sacrifice to become closer to Allah? Ultimately, this story serves as a powerful, lingering reminder. It reminds us that Allah never abandons those who sincerely submit to Him. The greatest sacrifices, those rare moments where we truly let go of our own worldly desires for something so much higher, those are never, ever forgotten. Indeed, Allah is with the patient.